I move order.
Meeting come to order, please rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think I've got to.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Paul Cummings, excused, right?
Yep.
Al Davis,
Here.
Charlie Q, excused, Robert Laraway,
Here.
Brent Beebe,
Here.
Carol Shannon here, David Torgerson.
Here. Okay,
One. Oh, you're doing.
we're on the agenda.
Okay,
Any additions to the agenda?
Tim,
Tim?
I'll cover an item under my manager's report regarding a release of a deed restriction. That if you guys are agreeable as you hear the part of my presentation, to go ahead and add that.
Okay, so possible new business item, a resolution will be 2022-23. So add that to your new business items. Anything else? Seeing none, the agenda will stand as presented. Consent agenda, anything to be taken out and discussed? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. So moved. Motion made by Laraway to accept the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Shannon.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Reports and presentations.
And
I want to commend Jessica again for spearheading the Adopt a Family. And I know she's going to have a report for us, so when did you want to do that? You want to do
I've
that
got it covered under my manager's report.
under your mention?
Yeah.
Okay. So other than that, everybody else, buckle down for the snowstorm. Have a Merry Christmas. All right, Roseland's here, but he's.
Link, open. Yay, there we go.
There we go.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
Guess we're all up and ready, so go ahead and rock and roll.
You're ready for me? Okay. I'll try not to be distracted by seeing myself on the screen So appreciate the chance to be here tonight. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you'll be able to see host disabled participant screen sharing. Can you enable that, Tim?
Yeah, let's see here.
Unless they already all have a copy of it.
They do.
We have a copy.
All right, if you have a copy, I'll just kind of read down through it. Hopefully you have, it's a little packet. It's like 12 pages. So I'm going to be primarily reading through the highlighted areas. My presentations get shorter every year because I just kind of focus on what's, just really the hot topics. So starting with the they moved the independent auditor's opinion clear to the top on the independent auditor's report. So that's a little bit new. But the opinion is basically addresses the basic financial statements and the related notes, which is pages 1 through 20 of your report. Okay. And in the first highlighted sentence, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. So the basic financial statements and the footnotes all are fairly presented. And that's what those first couple of paragraphs address. And move down under the change in accounting principle paragraph that's required to be here because you adopted the new GASB 87 on leases. We'll talk about that in a minute. If you turn to the second page of that first letter, and if you have questions, please feel free to shout them out. On the second page, under the required supplementary information paragraph, everybody with me?
Yep.
All right. This addresses management's discussion and analysis and the budgetary comparison schedules. That's what this next paragraph is addressing. And we applied certain limited procedures to that information. We read through it, we compare it to other data to make sure there's nothing in there that's inconsistent with what we audited. but we do not audit that. And that last sentence says we do not express an opinion or provide any assurance on that. So basically, we don't audit the budget and we don't audit the management discussion and analysis, okay? And then the next paragraph, supplementary information, that's your fire withholding fund statements in the back. We do include that in our audit procedures. That has been audited. And in the last sentence of that paragraph, in our opinion, the additional supplementary information are fairly stated in all material respects. So that's how that auditor's opinion is. We address the basic statements in the notes, and we talk about the management discussion and the budget, and then we talk about the other supplementary information. The bottom paragraph, report on government auditing standards. We also issued a report on internal control and compliance. That is in this packet, so we will get to that in just a minute. But that is our auditor's report in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions on that? Pretty straightforward, what we also refer to as a clean opinion or unqualified opinion. Next page in your handout, I just highlighted some of the key totals. Your governmental funds, first column, the business type activities is your water and sewer fund. I just highlighted the total assets. You take those total assets in each column, subtract out the liabilities, and you end up with a nice, very, very healthy net position in each of those funds. The next page, page 2, and that at page 1, I'm gonna back up a step. This is the full accrual basis. So we incorporate all of your assets, including long-term, and all your liabilities, including long-term. And on page 2, same thing, full accrual basis. All long-term receivables and payables are recorded into here. Your change in pension plan and compensated absences, all those things are incorporated in here. I just highlighted the change in net position. This would be like your profit or loss for the year. A small decrease in the funds, not a big deal. Otherwise, that's a pretty healthy full accrual statement. The next couple of pages, page 3 and 5, you're probably more familiar with. This is the modified accrual basis, which is essentially the cash basis modified for 60 days worth of payables and receivables. Page 3, you can see your general fund, major and local street. Then your other non-major funds is the fire withholding fund that's included in the back of your report. I just highlighted the fund balance here to show that you've got a very, very healthy fund balance in all of your funds. I think we probably had a conversation before how the fund balance, it seems a little high compared to the annual budget. But if you're accruing that fund balance for major capital purchases or other big projects, that would be a good reason to do that. But otherwise, I think you may want to be a little cognizant of the fact that your fund balance is, more than an entire year's budget. Did we touch on that last year, Tim?
Yeah.
You skipped it last year. You touched on it each of the prior.
Yeah, okay. It's not our job to tell you what your fund balance should be, other than it needs to be positive. But I think just as a kind of a heads up, we've had issues before where governmental units had a pretty sizable fund balance and it started to come to the attention of their taxpayers, and so it raised some questions. Now, again, as I said before, if you're increasing your fund balance and you have some planned use for that, that certainly would be a reasonable, a good reason for that fund balance to increase. Page 5, this is your change in net position, change in fund balance for each of your funds. All of them went up this year. So there was increases in your fund balance in each case. Page 7, I just put this in here. It's your business type activities to show that you had your airport and sewer. Not a lot of activity in those funds, but I put them in there so you knew what those business type activity enterprise funds were. Page 9 is the cash flow that goes along with that. Then I skipped to page 20. On page 20, it's the last page of our notes. And at the top, we just disclosed that the village implemented the GASB 87, where you essentially no longer have any operating leases. You have to capitalize all of your material leases and record a right to use asset and a liability to go along with that. In the upcoming pronouncement for GASB 96, subscription-based information technology arrangements, kind of follows the 87 guidance regarding technology, and that is you have to record a right to use subscription asset and a corresponding subscription liability. That's just coming down the pike. I believe it's effective coming up this next year. But just kind of a heads up about some new pronouncements. Page 26, this is the letter I referred to earlier at the bottom of our audit report. This is the, we call it the Government Auditing Standards Letter. It's where we address internal control and compliance. I'm going to look on page 26 now, the first highlighted sentence. We do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of the village's internal control. We're required to look at internal control and to test it, but we do not test it extensively enough to issue an opinion. So we do not issue an opinion, as that first highlighted sentence is said. Skip down a couple paragraphs. We did identify certain deficiencies in internal control described in the accompanying schedule of findings and question costs as 2022-01 that we consider to be a material weakness. And we will talk about that in just a second. The compliance and other matters paragraph. We also look at compliance. We do all various testing of compliance. We do not test it extensively enough to issue an opinion. So you can see there where the first highlighted sentence is on that next to the bottom paragraph. Providing an opinion on compliance with those provisions was not an objective, and accordingly we do not express such an opinion. Then the next sentence, the results of our test disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported. In other words, we do test compliance. If we had found issues, they would have been identified here in this paragraph, and there was none. Next page in the handouts, page 28. This is where the finding referred to in the previous page is laid out. There was some unspent portion of the American Rescue Plan grant funds came in, and the unspent portion needs to be deferred. Federal revenue needs to be reduced, and you set up a deferred revenue. And because the dollar amount was material, we're required to report it. This is one of those things where you'd like to just say, you know, that's kind of a one-time thing. I can see how you missed it because you don't defer revenues as a practice in the past. And so let's just, you know, not do that again and move on. But we're required to report it because it's material. So that's why that's there. Again, it was a one-time thing. The last couple of pages in here is the communication with those charged with governance. You probably got these in the mail. I just wanted to highlight a few things that we're required to communicate to you. Second paragraph there, we noted no transactions entered into by the village during the year for which there was a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus. All significant transactions were recognized in the financial statements. Moving down to the next section, the most sensitive estimates were required to tell you what those are. They were compensated absences and the estimated lives of capital assets. The financial statement closures were neutral, consistent, and clear. Under the difficulties encountered in the audit paragraph, we encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management. That's always a good thing. Next page, the following material misstatements was detected. As I just mentioned, we're required to report that here. The disagreements with management, we're pleased that there's no such disagreements arose during the course of our audit. We did request representations from management, and we did receive those. Management may decide to consult with other accountants. To our knowledge, there was no such consultations. And then we have discussions with management over the variety of matters throughout the course of the audit. These discussions occurred in the normal course of our professional relationship, and our responses were not a condition to our retention. So those are just required disclosures we need to communicate to the governing board regarding the audit process. So that's kind of a quick overview. I'd be glad to take any questions you may have.
Anybody have any? I don't. Okay, Bill, I guess that's it.
All right.
Wherever you went.
Remember the owl bounces around when we're speaking.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate the chance to be here. Please don't hesitate. If you got questions, give me a call or shoot me an email. I'll be glad to chat with you. And if there are no other questions, I hope you all have a great Christmas and get ready for the big storm, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
You bet. You bet. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye. Okay.
Can I quickly ask who made the motion for the consent agenda?
Consent agenda, Robert Laraway, and I was second.
That is what I needed to know because I was,
Busy.
yeah, I had not anticipated, that. Like, we had Bill all lined up. It's like, I can't put Bill up there from the computer because this has a video card to run those screens. This computer has that on it, so I had to log in from this computer as a guest, which it didn't want me to do it first because I'm signed in as me, which I'm already signed in there, so.
So.
You know, our IT department should have given me a heads up.
Huh, who was that, I
I
wonder?
don't know.
I don't know, Mr. Manager,
I'll take the blame.
Fair enough.
your report.
We're gonna start off with Deputy Manager Manley giving you an update about adopted family.
So as you can see from the picture up there, that is what we did with most of our funds. What's missing is 4 teachers' wish lists, hats, the foster closet, Cat Coalition, and Karma Cat Cafe's gifts that we had delivered directly to them. We raised just over $4,200 this year, which is a little less than the last couple of years, but right on par with what we had raised prior to COVID. Dollar General was new to our list this year for a donation box, and now they are also partnering with us. They have a reduced penny sale where they take all the merchandise off their shelves that they don't sell for new merchandise, and they store it until somebody can come and take it off of their hands. And in past years, they've had a hard time getting rid of it or getting a place to donate it. So I let them know that we will take it and then disperse it throughout the year and or hold it until Christmas time for Toys for Tots, Foster Closet, whatever the case may be. We also partnered this year with Big Brothers Big Sisters. We got one family from them. It was a family of 7. And then there are 50 matches in the Isabella County District for Big Brothers Big Sisters. So we are donating 50 dinner gift certificates to each of those matches so that they can take their littles out to dinner and then back to Big Brothers Big Sisters to do a craft or go bowling or whatnot. In total, we had 5 families with 27 people altogether. So we just today had our Wademan Elementary family come and pick up their presents. He came in and he thought he was picking up one gift. And when he saw the tree, he was speechless for all of the gifts that he was receiving. He went out and got his wife and they came in and they were very, very grateful and thankful and in tears. So it's things like that that just, you know, just warmed your heart during this time, and knowing that our community comes together every year to support so many different causes is just very heartwarming, and it really just, you know, gives us that Christmas spirit every single year. And today was no different, and it just, every time they show emotion and show that they're grateful, I'm just so happy that we're able to pull it together and make it happen for all those folks. This is a combined effort on the LIPOA's part and the village, as well as the entire community. Myself and Alicia, and this year Carol, as well as last year, and Christine Bellinger from the LIPOA board also has been helping out. So it's really turning into, it's growing and it's bringing us together as partners as well. So that's something that we can build on that's positive. And I'm grateful for them for their help. Shopping is much more enjoyable. Yes. As well as loading and unloading everything. And wrapping. Yes, this year we actually got to wrap too. We also did donate to Toys for Tots. And we just received something in the mail today from Ellen's Equipment in Beale City, and they do a backpack fund, which I'm going to be calling on Monday, to where if you donate food to them, they will then match $1, and it gives backpacks to children in need with school supplies and food. So I'm hoping to add that to our list next year. And that is awesome.
Thank you.
You did an excellent job.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Good job.
Now to the boring guy.
Okay.
You may have noticed if you live on the west side of the lake that we have several trees marked with pink tape, and the crew started today to remove them. These are trees along Queensway that, for the most part, are leaning in over the road, so we're being proactive in getting those removed, since that is a highly critical roadway for that part of the lake. We've got work planned all the way down to Bundy Drive. So that's, should be done, you know, they think they're gonna be done this week, but I highly doubt they're gonna work past Thursday with the weather, so I would anticipate, most of it done this week and then following up with some next week. I'm pleased to report to you that, with the change in party leadership coming to Lansing for the legislature, lame duck was incredibly boring this year with a total of 55 bills sent to the governor. None of them were the short-term rental bill. That bill has died in lame duck. It does not seem to have much of a chance in the new legislature, since that was a Republican-led effort, and they are now the minority party in both chambers. We've issued 67 permits as of today. Recycling is moving to Thursday in 2023. I know.
Okay.
Our office will be closed on the 23rd, the 26th, the 30th, and the 1st for the Christmas and New Year's holidays. In 23, I'm looking at updating our website and also having a higher resolution image of our logo made. So the current logo image that we have is from about 14 years ago, I want to say at this point in time, 2007-ish, maybe longer, because it was before we moved into this building.
Yeah.
It was before this, so, you know, 15-ish years. One of the templates I've been looking at, this is through our current provider, this is revised. This is their newest template that they have. I think this is a much modern, sleeker website. One of the things that is appealing, if we go to a new model, new template, one, the ADA compatibility is built in. Now on ours, there's things I have to do when I upload files to do that. But also, new features that they have available are called e-notify alerts. So on your web page, it's an additional cost, $500 a year for email, $800 for email and text. Your residents can sign up and be notified anytime you update a web page that you've allowed a subscription update for. So that could be anything from meeting minutes, like our El Camino project. These are updates on that construction schedule. And then also, if we created a page for like emergency information, we update that here, that goes to everybody as well. So I think that's a feature definitely worth exploring with a new web page. You know, we've had our current page since 2018, 17 or 18. You know, these are things you do want to, you know, keep fresh every, you know, 5, 6, 7 years, that range. You know, just increase the service level we can provide so that we can, you know, have a more interactive website with our community. All the things we do currently are still available. I've even tried to think about a way that we can help the association, or if they wanted anything to go on our page. I know they've struggled with theirs. I know Jeff, you're working with them, right?
I worked on that board today even as well, so yeah, it's not ready to go, it's getting better.
Yeah. So, someday I'll have a more refined kind of proposal in the future, but that's on my radar, something I'm looking at. Some other things I wanted to give you an update on. This July, the ZBA heard a appeal to build like a covered patio type deal on the back of that accessory structure at 1234 Clubhouse Drive. The request was denied because it did not meet the zoning code at the time, and they did not meet the criteria in the zoning code for a variance. With the changes made to the zoning ordinance last month, what they were requesting then is allowed now by right. So I just went ahead and issued a permit to them without them asking or anything like that. Shipped it off in the mail to them, and it's good for the entire 2023. So they should have received that probably today. Maybe I did it Friday. So hopefully they appreciate that, but they're going to build that type of covered canopy thing over that green area on their patio. And the sticking point was that they wanted to connect it to the building itself, which changed the footprint. And the key thing that you did in the zoning update is you changed that definition of footprint from where the posts were to where the building was. As you remember, at last month's meeting, we heard a request during the public hearing from Mr. Cook and Magistrate Strauss about rezoning a piece of property that they own right across from Randell, the 1.5 acre house that sits out front of their field. We scheduled that for the January 10th Planning Commission meeting. Notices were mailed yesterday. The notice in the Morning Sun will be in, I think, the 27th. I will happily say this was my favorite mailing list I've ever put together for a zoning thing because it was 4 parcels. Because you have to notify everyone within 300 feet of the parcel. Well, the Cooks own 300 feet on 2 of those sides and Randell's on the other, and Record Dairy Farm outside the village is the one to the south, and they're like 280 is the property line there. So yeah, that one was a fun, simple one. For those of you that might have checked your email, we had a request come in today. Conversation started yesterday about a release of a deed restriction that we placed in 2006. So in 2006, the village began selling off surplus lots that we had acquired from the DNR around the year 2000, 99, 2000. And those lots were acquired for a whopping $20 a piece from the state under the former tax reversion law. The law's changed since then, and because we claimed them for a public purpose, they were never sold at fair market value. So we were only able to recoup the cost that we put in the lot. So we sold these for $9,900. We pocketed, our $60 back and, publication type fees. So nothing considerable. That owner of those 3 lots would like to decouple the southernmost one, which is lot 245, so that the owners of 243 and 44 can add it to their parcel and build a detached garage on it, keeping 246 and 247 together. The combination process was done specifically to reduce density in Lake Isabella North and the other plats that were really impacted by the restrictions in the building use restrictions. So at the time that was north, south, Gulf States 2, Air Park. So we went ahead and proactively combined a lot of these 2 into 1 so that we could sell them as a single site, so that we wouldn't have septic and well issues in the future with not having enough space to put in a reserve field or, a well. Some of the things that our friends to the north in Wademan are being told is a problem, that they don't have adequate parcel size for these systems. So with your permission, I do have a resolution prepared for you. If you would like to take action on it tonight, that would be new business number 5, but that would authorize the clerk and myself to sign the release of deed on the condition that, those 2 lots that are vacant stay combined, and that one gets combined when they build the garage with the house. It's a pretty straightforward process. They called yesterday and said, yeah, we're trying to close on Friday. It's like, perhaps you should have called sooner, folks. But and yeah, I think it's fairly simple. It doesn't change the projected density because it's still 1 building site left. So you're good with that.
Okay.
That is all I have for you fine folks.
Anything more for Kim? Any questions?
Hang on. My PowerPoint's off.
You're up, Sherman Township.
Not a lot for the township, but I got a couple other things from the county, but apparently they had a meeting today with Eagle regarding the sewer system possibilities for Wademan area. I don't have any results of what that meeting is, but we did meet our original December 5th deadline that was required by Eagle out of Lansing to let them know that we acknowledge the letter they got from them and what we're going to possibly do down the road. So just let us know that. If you don't do that, such as other township that didn't follow through on that, they ended up getting a pretty stiff fine. So we were able to avoid that and make sure we get it done. So I'll keep you up to date as I hear anything about that meeting, if there's any progress made on it. Frank Engler was also at our meeting last night. So for the county, he's got a couple of things that I figured you guys would be wanting to know about. The first thing is the proposal 2 that passed, which says the 9-day voting and stuff like that. Apparently is only going to affect federal elections. It's not going to affect any other local elections whatsoever, and it won't even begin to take place until 2024. So from an election point of view, we've got some time to work it in, so if we end up
Yeah.
doing our election next August for the stuff like that, we won't have to oblige by the 9-day open voting and all that stuff too, so. Secondly, the county got a $350,000 grant to upgrade the entire 911 system throughout the county. Part of what they're gonna do with that is they're gonna upgrade the 800 gigahertz radios throughout the entire county for all the fire departments and everything else. I asked if Tim could be included in that and was told, yes, that would also be included in there. The part of the other thing that's gonna, the 911, when they get a call now, right now, it only goes to 911 and they pick and choose where that information goes to. The new system will actually pump out that information to everybody that needs to be notified, including the prosecutor. Not sure why he's included in that part, isn't asking a detailed question, but, so that'll be another nice thing that 911 will be giving out information to everybody that's involved in and around that area. The third thing is the recycle RFP plant that they had gotten a grant for. They are progressing with that. It's going to be at least 2 years before they can get any of the new equipment. But they're also talking they have to build a covered building to bring all the stuff in. What will happen with the new recycle system, we won't have to sort in our recycles anymore. You'll just literally put it out at the curb, the truck comes in, picks up the whole thing, dumps it in, and then when it gets back to the recycle plant, they will now have sorting capabilities to sort out the cardboard, the plastic, the tin, et cetera, all that stuff as well too. It's much more economical. They can cut down the number of drivers, number of trucks they have to have out and do that stuff too. The other thing that they're gonna do too is I asked Frank about it last night, he said he'd look into it. We pay it at $15 a year right now for our recycle. Their hopes is that they're gonna be able to become a regional area, because right now the county loses about $400,000 a year on the recycle stuff. So if they become a regional one, meaning that it's gonna be multi-county, they can get it to the point where it's at least meeting or exceeding their cost. They would foresee at that point that the entire recycle program and everything like that would be free for everybody. So we may end up getting to the point and not have to pay that $15, but we're still talking at least 2 years, 3 years down the road from now before all that'll kick in. That's all I have.
Thank you. Our bands, they still gonna be separated then?
Far as I know.
Then the new schedule starts on Thursdays.
Yeah, so January is like January 4th, I think is the first collection date.
And we have the LIPOA report in your packets.
Yeah, and at their meeting, they approved up to $5,000 to be spent towards a special election. That's in there in your report, as well as what's else in there from
For
that?
minutes.
Their minutes, yeah. Oh, and the dam inspection letter. So they sent a
yep.
letter to Spicer about the dam inspection. That came out of the liaison committee meeting. That inspection happened last Thursday, I want to say. Wednesday or Thursday. I joined them. I went out with Bob Willoughby, the drain commissioner, George, Sean Middleton from Spicer. They came out, they inspected the dam. Nothing significant of concern on Spicer's part, pretty much same as normal. They do want to come back out when they go to close the gates and potentially shut down the water flow for 10-15 minutes, because the bottommost cement pad on the spillway coming down to the river looks like it might have slipped a little bit. There's a larger gap than they remember in there. So if they could close that so they can go out and get an accurate measurement of that, that way they can monitor it in future years. But it's nothing that appears major at this point in their eyes. So they gotta submit that report yet to the state, but the field work has been done.
Cool.
Looks like they got a grant too. They applied for a grant to take care of some.
They have applied for a grant, correct?
Okay. Woody vegetation. Okay. So that will help us. That will help us with the election, not having, I mean, the cost of the election will,
Yes, it
not
should.
having those 9 days will help us with the
Yep.
cost also. Okay.
It was nice to have the agenda/minutes included here.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's nice that they shared that.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay. Public hearings, none, public comment.
A quick update on the LIPOA thing as well, that their entire board, or at least all the board that was there, is very much in support of continuing and trying to do this judging project again. I made sure that they are aware of the deadlines that we're gonna have to meet for doing bonding and all that stuff, so they can't dilly-dally around and stuff, and was part of that saying, I believe they want to get together in January and get this committee formed and start going from there.
Okay, that's good. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none. Existing business. Okay, police power review.
So at last month's meeting, there was a discussion about potentially getting rid of our leaf burning ban in the village, and that led to a larger discussion regarding should we update that entire section of the ordinance book, which is Article 6, which is their police power section. So after the meeting, I sent out a survey that took about 15-20 minutes that had every regulation in that section broken down by category over, 15, quick pages. I sent it out twice. I sent one specifically to the council. I sent the same survey to the planning commission, current and former members that we have contact info for. Kept them separate though, so you could see what your guys' feelings were versus theirs. 4 of the 7 council members did complete the survey. I also included in here the, current timeframes we have on ordinance violations based on your adopted code enforcement policies. But I gave you a series of recommendations here about, based on your survey results, things that we should be looking at. In summary, no real major changes to the animal control ordinance. I think the council should review the trespassing ordinance, review outdoor storage and finished product. We need a full overhaul of the noise ordinance. Get rid of the burning leaves and yard waste. Several areas in light code need to be removed. The storing boats, campers, trailer regulation, yard and vehicle sale regulations, rental home, short-term rentals, and code enforcement procedures to match those up. Maybe you have questions on why things made it into the ordinances over time. I'm probably able to answer that because some of these were intentional for specific situations that had arisen over the years. But that's it in a nutshell. I will happily answer any questions you have or what feelings, thoughts you have moving forward.
The chart, the type of violation, priority, etc. Did you just put that together or is that?
No, that's an adopted policy of the council. That's in our adopted code enforcement
Okay.
procedures.
Okay. So that could be edited at some point.
Yeah, it should be edited after you redo the section,
Okay,
because there will likely be things in here that don't
Right.
require regulation anymore.
as far as words, there are a lot of words in all of this. Do we need all those words?
I don't know what regulations are.
True, good point. However, it seems like it would be easier for me to follow if I didn't have to read all the words.
The more words, less loopholes.
And the less we can read, but that's the only bad part. If I have to read false sentences here of what I can or can't do relative to an animal, people aren't going to read that. I don't think. It has to be easier.
Well, I don't know.
No,
I mean, that one's the cruel and inhumane treatment.
right, I don't mean that.
Yeah.
Right, I just meant in terms of some of the words, I mean, some of the sections could be easier answers if I wanted it to be a reference document. That's all.
I'm totally on board with simplification and streamlining and reducing.
Sometimes we have to list them.
Right.
You gotta list boa constrictor
I
along with
know.
canaries and parrots,
Because the boa eats the canary, so it gets
Yeah.
bad. Yes, I know.
exotic animals.
Yep.
the air.
Yeah, that part, yeah, that I think, but some of the other parts are harder.
Would it be possible to write an index so that people could just look, this is where I need to go for this, beside it?
Mhm.
That would be a good idea.
Yes, it would be.
So then they don't have to read all, oh,
Right.
where do I have to go? Well, hey, if I'm thinking about pets, this is where I have to go.
I want the BOA, that's where I look. Got it.
That sometimes instead of putting it in a paragraph, if you put it in bullet points.
Oh, yeah, and a list of sorts.
So that as you're going down through there,
You
You
can say
know, I
this applies,
comply.
this, and yeah.
and then this one don't, oops, I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, it simplifies it if it's in bullet, if it can be put in bullet points.
I think tables, yes, the problem with bullet points, is that if you're going to write a citation, it has to have a specific reference, so. I mean, you'd have to reference the entire, you know, 624.5. You know, but those bullet points need to be numbered with, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to correspond to a regulation at that point in
That
time.
makes sense.
But I mean, bullet points and numbers are essentially the same thing.
Mhm.
You know, if you look on like the trespassing, fireworks, outdoor storage. Ones that council members expressed an interest in getting rid of was trespassing, fireworks, and loosely packed materials such as sand, topsoil, dirt. So the trespassing one is something that we have used at the request of the association to deal with vehicles in their parks that do not have proper stickers. We use that not quite frequently, but it comes up more often in winter as part of the overall effort to deal with ice fishing. That's why we have several no parking zones up around the lake. The fireworks one, I would exercise strong caution in getting rid of that one. If you start letting people shoot fireworks all year, that's gonna be an issue, I think, for your community. And then
My comment on that would be, there's already existing laws and regulations about when you can and cannot use fireworks.
which you have to recognize here or they don't apply.
Oh.
So
I got it.
those rules only apply if you say they apply.
Got it.
That's why we have that regulation. If the village doesn't have that ordinance, they don't apply, because the law says the municipality may only regulate in these areas. So if you don't choose to regulate, there is no regulation at that point in time.
So you know, if it's a county established rule, if we want it regulated,
County doesn't have a rule.
no,
It's-
okay,
No,
just us then. All right, fair enough.
And the state doesn't either.
no, the state rule is municipalities can regulate it within these parameters. They don't regulate it, counties don't regulate it, it's a municipal function to regulate the display of fireworks.
Yeah.
Loosely packed materials, that was a pellet factory rule. Because people were having material blown off property. You know, they weren't covering their sawdust piles.
And the outdoor storage around here.
Those are, and several of the
That's a lot of places.
noxious odor ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are all specific to those issues we encountered there. Noise and odors, you know, I'm fully on board with, we have to have a different noise ordinance. What we have now, frankly, is not enforceable. I honestly don't know what would be enforceable for us. I mean, that's noise ordinances are very difficult to enforce.
You can do a decibel thing, right?
You can, but
But then you have to measure it.
Right.
and, I mean, we have the equipment to measure it. But, you know, how has it been calibrated? And then you run into the issue of most of the noise ordinance violations that we are dealing with happen outside of our normal code enforcement hours.
Yep.
They're evenings.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the smoke, gas, steam, dust, fly ash travels beyond detectable boundaries of the property. That's pellet factory rule.
Yep.
Burning regulations, we talked about this. Refuse and household trash. So on these, the issue that you're gonna encounter if we don't regulate, nobody's going to regulate. Like the police would come out if there's a local ordinance on burning trash. If there's not, that's a different issue.
There's some stuff on here that, like the, engine braking,
Yeah,
probably not a major issue around here.
it actually has been.
Really?
Yeah. That came out more so during our big construction boom period. So you had trucks coming in, to 30 different house sites. Engine braking on Fairway and Lincoln and Bundy, as opposed to using their brakes, and people got saucy about it.
And with waste management, with
Yeah.
those big
I mean,
trucks.
but we can absolutely take it out. I mean, I don't think it's as desirable an issue today.
I think that's just one of those things, like, how do you enforce that too? How do you know a truck's gonna be coming through?
You gotta catch it. And we've got a couple over the years, and just let them know that you can't do that. And same with, we've had a driver to not recognize the truck routes that we have in place, and it's educational contact with the company and problems resolved, but yeah, definitely can take that out if you guys want.
There was one about too, like something about electrical hanging over the surface of the water.
That's on the pool one, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of like, that's beyond,
Yeah,
that's building code stuff. That'd be on the electrical code side, I think.
totally agree. Like on the pool one, the question that you guys need to come up with an answer on is, do you want to require fences for in-ground pools? Like, we don't require them for above ground pools. We have historically required them for in-ground pools. Several years ago, the building code of the state of Michigan was amended at the request of a specific industry to allow, like, the permanent retractable pool covers to serve as an acceptable alternative to fencing.
So safety.
We have not recognized that in our zoning regulation, or our police fire regulations, and we still require that fence around in-ground pool.
How many in-ground pools do we
Isn't-
have?
I think,
Five.
yeah, if you want insurance, you have to have a
Well, I
fence
think
around.
that's where it
And
started.
you even have to have a alert on the gate.
Mhm.
You don't have to?
Mm-mm.
Originally it was cities, wasn't it? Not country.
No, discount in insurance, or some insurance companies.
Some insurance
probably
may.
do,
Yeah,
some of them probably don't,
yeah.
but geez, it's a good idea.
Like, the last individual we had was adamant that he didn't want to do a fence. He was very upset that he had to. But, that's the rule here.
I'd say, it was a law one time, people got used to it. I would say if you saved one life, it's worth it. It's worth it, if we leave it in and save that one life.
I think you kind of go barking up a tree, creating more hassle for the village on something when there's already like a building code standard for it.
Mhm.
That's not really on us to police it. Is it a good idea? Probably, absolutely. I don't know if I trust some of these covers, like you can walk on them and stuff, and I don't know if that's the same or not, but
Having pulled a child out of a pool, I would definitely put a fence around there, all of them.
for sure, I would say it'd be highly recommended. Even if you have one of those covers, you should probably have a fence.
Yeah, that cover. Yeah, it's nice, but except for the smallest kid, that's not gonna stop.
It's probably more so for your neighbors, like if your kids walked over to the neighbor's house and they didn't have a fence around the pool and they fell in.
It helps keep the pool clean more than anything else. That's about it.
A cover, you mean?
Cover, yeah.
Like I said, having pulled a child out. You don't ever wanna do that.
Mm.
Can that be like a big deal? Could whoever did that, could they take the village to court over it?
No.
No?
No.
It's just, you can have it.
I mean, we require a permit for an in-ground pool, that's a condition of our permit.
Oh,
But we don't require a permit for an above ground pool. But we do require a fence permit and, a deck permit. So if they're doing those other things and they throw the pool on that's above ground, the pool is not the primary part of the permit for that. It is for an in-ground pool. Which we could totally change, and it's not,
I would like to see it change myself.
What's the process to make these changes?
so pretty similar to what you've done in the past. These are police power ordinances, so they do not go through the planning commission. I brought them into the loop so you had more eyes to look at it and get feedback, quite frankly. So whatever direction you offer to me, I can then take back and start to rewrite, condense, delete everything in this section and come back to you with a draft, give me more feedback, think more, you know. So
That's a big job.
it won't be terrible.
Okay.
Because again, I think a lot of this needs to be done like what we did with the zoning ordinance, where it needs to be restructured, reorganized, condensed. Put into tables if possible. This is part of that, keeping the regulations modern.
And as far as the burning regulations, and I'm all for getting rid of those, but I think we should still make a reference that, hey, if there's a burning ban on, they gotta follow it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't get rid of all the burning regulations,
No, well,
like burning trash.
yeah, sure, okay.
Or tires.
No,
couches.
But cleaning up your yard,
No, those, yeah,
branches falling down, things
Absolutely.
like that. But again, in accordance with the state burning ban.
so yard and vehicle sales. Many years ago, we had a resident by the name of Elmer Ledbetter. The Ledbetters lived down off Clubhouse Drive on Red Fox Court. There was a home between their house and Birdie Drive as they would come up Clubhouse Drive, where the gentleman had a yard sale all summer long. And
Remember him?
they asked for that to be stopped. And the council said, you know what, having a yard sale for May, June, July, August, September is probably a little excessive.
He had a nice little business on there.
He had a nice little business. But I would not think we need that detailed of regulation. And realistically could probably get rid of almost all of it in those areas.
So, all right, the overnight parking or storage of a semi truck trailer, flatbed, et cetera. If I'm a truck driver, where do I put my truck when I'm home?
You don't park it in the village, in
Right.
the residential area, and that's one that we do enforce,
Right,
because people complain about that.
yeah, because it takes up a lot of room, I get it.
Well, that's where it's on the road too.
Turn the
True.
road,
Yeah, true. Okay.
especially if they live on a local street and driving a semi down a local street. You know, people have parked at the LIPOA and indoor parking lot, we happily make our DPW area available if someone needs to park
Okay.
there, that kind of stuff. You know, we do try and work with people, but if you're driving a semi, parking in your driveway is not kosher.
Yeah.
Same like, you know, backhoes and
Mhm.
excavators, you know, we prohibit those being in residential neighborhoods as well.
Is there an omission there, on that part for like building?
Yeah, so it says unless associated with the bona fide building your zoning permit, I think is the exact wording, so. Yeah, if you've got a permit, that's totally cool, but if you're, you know, got a backhoe that you use for recreational purposes, leaving that outside in your side yard is not fly in most neighborhoods.
So I can't have my mini excavator at my house.
Well, it's certainly not allowed by the ordinance, but no one's complained about it, Mr. Beebe.
I'm gonna call tomorrow though.
And I will be,
I don't store it there.
No.
but, I mean, it does come there from time to time.
Yes.
and when it comes to issues like that, so everybody's aware, I don't believe it's my job to police the conduct of the council, that's your job. So if that comes up, I will defer to you folks.
Uh-huh.
And what is that again? I'm just part of what you were saying.
He has a mini excavator,
Oh, yeah, okay.
you know, it's not. there
And
for more than a
sometimes
day.
at his house, but not stored
Sometimes,
there.
correct, yeah.
Sometimes when it needs washed or worked on,
Mhm.
like if it needs oil change, I take it to my house to
Yeah.
spray it off and do the oil change.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's different than leaving it out in your yard for months at a time. You know, and I think that's more the intent that this is going at, that in a residential neighborhood, you shouldn't, you know,
Mhm.
run a construction business and have all the equipment out in the neighborhood. So,
Terry,
But again, nobody's ever made a complaint about your property.
Terry didn't replace his yet.
What's that?
Terry didn't replace his backhoe after it burned out.
Terry, I think he's just driving a tractor still.
Oh, I got that away from the, I just re-roofed that.
Yeah.
2 months before that burned out. Made it pretty nice, really nice, and then it burned out. It's a
Terry-
shame.
Yeah, Terry's a wonderfully nice gentleman,
Yeah.
you know, we've always had good conversations, with Terry. You know, I've always thought that our trailer camper regulation has been pretty extreme and should be kind of repealed.
Well, we live in a resort.
Yeah.
Community. Which,
And it comes down, in terms of, think about not just the regulation, but think about the enforcement end of this. Is that really as pressing of an issue as like blighted property, blighted structures? If you got, you know, your campers out in your backyard, and they're things that you use. Yeah, we do live in a community that is recreational in nature, and you know, I think the council certainly has been more of that mindset probably in the last 6 to 8 years. Accepting that that's who we are, recognizing that these are the things that happen in our community, so we want to have more storage, those type of stuff, where, you know, in my earlier days here, that was not the view of what we were. It was a far more restrictive, far more, you know, Canadian Lakes-ish type feel, and that's not what we are, and that's not what we could be.
I feel like we could reference a number of campers or boat trailers.
No, yeah,
I don't, you know, I totally understand somebody wanting 1 or 2 of them out there,
mhm,
especially if they can't have a garage, because of the size or something.
Right.
yeah.
But I don't want some guy that's gonna be repairing them and then end up with 6 or 7 of them in his yard.
The last kind of page with the 4 open-ended questions for the comments. So we require door-to-door salespeople or solicitors to require, they get a permit from us, background check. Obviously, you cannot apply that to people soliciting for political or religious means. But,
That guy with the pickup comes by selling meat,
he has to have one.
yeah, and I oppose with that.
Yeah.
Well, girl, you know, selling Girl Scout cookies.
I know.
You're stuff someone selling meat.
What about
Kind of
your
meat's
farm? They have
got.
to-
If they're going door to door, yes. If they're going to their customer's house, no.
Got it.
But same with like any of the lawn companies. You cut whoever's grass all you want, but if you go to hang door hangers
Got it.
the next 3 houses down, then you need it.
Exactly.
So if I have one hung on my door, I should find out if they had a permit.
Correct. And I can
Got it.
tell you right now, we have no active permits.
Got it, okay. Okay.
You know, rental housing. We used to require a license and an annual inspection. The state changed the law that you could only inspect single wide mobile homes every 3 years. Roughly 50% of our rental houses were single wides, 50% were stick built. So we went to a 3-year inspection cycle, and you know, what we found doing that after several years was it was really easy just to fix the place up then and not deal with it for 2.5 years. So we kept the standards in place, but we took out the license and inspection part, and we left the standards there so that if a renter had an issue, we could then get involved. It was more of a responsive way to deal with the policy rather than being proactive. We continue to prohibit short-term rentals, which we define as anything less than 28 consecutive days. You know, and we've had this discussion actually very recently, but it does appear that the overall atmosphere on this is moving in a more permissive way. Specifically, I think towards, you know, like owner occupied, those type of ones, but not like the dedicated Airbnb. You know, so if it's your home and you want to rent it out for 10 weekends a year or rent out, you know, a bedroom. You know, what I'm reading and interpreting from this is people are more open to that. At both the council and planning commission level.
So I rent my house for a weekend and they bring a boat and 3 jet skis and all of that. That's a lake issue, which I deal with them.
Yep.
But how does that affect traffic on the water in our community?
Yeah.
And people that don't have a dedication to our community and don't care and leave trash and other things.
Yes.
That does concern me.
100%. You know, and it's not wrong at all to acknowledge the uniqueness of Lake Isabella in that we are very unique in that our lake access is controlled through an association that people pay dues to.
Yep.
And if someone were to do something like that, they would need to be paying
Right.
gas passes
Yep.
to the association for those people. You know, that's always been a very valid point when I bring this up in Lansing with members of the legislature that, you know, one size fit all is not correct because we have this unique set of circumstances here. And they're like, yeah, it's appropriate for you guys.
Mhm.
You know, it's not appropriate for South Haven, you know.
Yeah,
But, you know, again, whatever direction you want me to work on, can happily do that. And then the last one I asked you guys about was marijuana. And still strongly prohibit all the businesses, is the flavor from, you know, the responses that were provided.
there's enough other resources that it's not necessary here.
And that's it in summary.
I think if we're going through this, you kind of break it up by section, like one section a meeting or whatever, you know, so you can kind of read through each one and kind of digest it a little bit.
Yeah,
Like that makes sense, like just hearing like Carol's point about that, like. I'm not opposed to Airbnbs, but our situation out here, it makes sense to, you're just opening the door for loopholes and people, you know. Parking
Lot-
10 boats and
Yeah.
going on our lake and being crazy, it's,
Lots more traffic on our roads. We already have an issue with that.
you know, and. You know, we've talked about that here at this table about the different classifications of short-term rentals, you know, where. Buying a house and just using it for an Airbnb is an absolute hard no, but then you get more to the, well, you know, I might, you know. Want to rent it out for 3 weeks in the summer, something like that. Those get a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah, or if I went south for 3 months and wanted to rent it while I was gone.
You know, but we still continually get calls about short-term rentals.
People who want to rent,
People who want to buy property and turn it into a dedicated rental.
got it. Oh, okay.
Most recently, the Maury property, the island down by my house on Bundy. Up for sale. The listing. Politely pointed out that the island is not part of the association, which opens up for many more development possibilities. So.
Oh, good.
We let them know that, you know, development regulations are really handled by us. And it's zoned LR4, which is one of our most restrictive zoning districts, and we fielded calls about a short-term rental and we fielded calls about, you know, a second dwelling. Both of those are gonna be hard no's in our zoning ordinance, so, you know, please advise prospective buyers accordingly.
I know that there may be a softening. But it's easier to soften up if it becomes an issue rather than make it softer and try to make it harder.
Right, I would agree.
And there is a cost benefit analysis.
Yeah.
We're not to subsidize somebody else making money. It's nice if they want to, but I don't think that's our job.
People provide services to us in our community, so that's traffic. And there are different size of vehicles that do that in terms of who's using the roads. But in the summertime, this is a different community and there are kids everywhere now, which is wonderful. And to have people that don't have an investment in our community, using the community concerns me with the safety of our kids. On the roads, in the swim areas. I mean, you know, it is a concern.
And it involves both the LFBOA and.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
Involves everybody.
yeah.
Maybe something to come up with the liaison also.
That's a good point.
You change like noise regulations, you think it would kind of fall in line with like the fireworks thing is? Like around holiday weekends, is there more of an exception?
Yeah, I mean, and that's how we've always enforced it too, is like,
Cause I mean, if you have a band on your porch for 4th of July, I think that that's cool, but if you have a band on your porch. You know, December 1st, it's a little different.
For many reasons.
it's a band,
Yeah.
I mean, I could hear plain as day at my house.
Yeah.
they're inside my house, you know?
That was nice music. Mhm.
But yeah, and that's, you know, and that's something that I would not encourage the council to get into a permit type relationship where
Right.
we just acknowledge it for what it is. And we don't make people jump through additional hoops, because, you know, I don't think that's particularly helpful. You know, but we did have a handful of complaints about the band. And pretty much said, it's 4th of July, you know, it is what it is, folks.
You're on a lake and. the 4th of
Yeah.
July
Yeah.
is-
You know, it's not like this is going on every weekend.
You know, if there was a time, whether it's, 11 or midnight or whatever, I think fireworks is midnight. Isn't it? What do we put
A
it?
midnight or 1, I think 1 AM.
You know, so it's not really unreasonable to ask someone to cut your volume down at midnight
No,
or 11 or whatever.
Yeah, state parks, you can't do anything after 10 o'clock.
Correct.
They kick you out.
Yeah.
You're done.
well, some will kick you out, some will not do anything.
Yeah, a lot will kick you out.
Just don't hire Carmi's band with teas or that they play so loud you can't even be in the same building.
Yeah.
And we keep teasing her that they're trying to drown out the singer. She's the singer.
Okay, yeah, I think Brent's.
Brent's got some very good points, yeah.
We should break it down into
No, it's a great
manageable
point.
sections.
Just so we can talk about it more, because you might not even, just hearing different people's views, you kind of think of a different way to think about it and.
Yep.
I know, it's a good idea, I agree. It's a good way for us to work on.
So. Now, are we done with the review thing? Are we gonna, what are we gonna do? Work on that a little bit, Tim, or try to?
This is in sections.
Yep.
I have, specific comments about specific sections, so incorporating that.
Okay. Okay, good,
I'll
thank you.
proofread it if you need me.
We have grammar.
Oh, that's right. You guys.
Road commission,
Got nothing for you, they have not submitted.
they have not submitted a bid. Okay. It looks like a good deal, though.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good deal, yeah,
It's gonna be a really good
it's
deal.
gonna be a good deal.
Is that the area where you said we might need to have a special meeting?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
And there's nothing that I could give you tonight
That would be
It
official.
would be something that I would be comfortable you acting on and let me act on before a meeting, you know. If they had a, you know, something more definitive and a structure that, you know, we need to fill in these blanks here. But they don't, I mean, they have to have their pre-con meeting and that kind of stuff, so.
Well, we can do that. Okay, new business. Dredging proposal agreement.
New business number one. So as you read in the liaison committee minutes, the association is definitely interested in doing another run at a dredging only proposal. One of the things that was discussed at the liaison committee meeting is we probably need to have a new agreement that addresses a new proposal, because the one we have in place talks specifically about, you know, a November election and this amount for a mill and this type of ask here. You know, one of the things that did come up at one of the community meetings we had, and I think is a very good idea, is having people from outside the village organization and outside the LIPOA organization be part of that committee. So obviously have some representation from both boards, but then inviting members of the public who don't serve in any capacity on any of our boards to be part of that. And I think that's a good idea. I think that would help with community involvement. You know, things did get brought up that were, you know, really good critiques and suggestions, but in general, everyone I think is on the same page that we need to have better numbers in terms of the cost of the dredging. We need to have a more definitive plan on what's being dredged and when and where. You know, so I think all those are good things, and you know, the sooner we can create this committee that can oversee that, the better it's going to be for everybody. And so what we had kind of laid out was, you know, let's have this agreement updated, we'll present it. We'll discuss it in January, and then both boards can act on it at their January meetings, and then we could, you know, work on getting that board appointed and starting late January, really in that process of putting the plan together and soliciting, you know, members of the community that may want to be involved. Beyond that, you know, I made some pretty minor tweaks based on, you know, this is the newer proposal, the new plan. The new election, you know. I specifically clarified that, you know, the equipment is gonna be owned and accounted for by us, which has to be. You know, and then there's the big fill in the blank about what we're gonna look at in terms of an ask for the community, so.
So what's the timeline? When do you need to know the answers? What should the committee size be, et cetera? You need that?
Tonight,
Okay, that's kind of what I wondered. Okay, fair enough.
Well, I think
I want your
probably
feedback, yeah.
Yeah.
at least 6, probably not more than 9. That'd be 2, 2, and 2, or 3, 3, and 3.
Got it. Okay.
But at least, yeah,
2 managers. Like Tim has here, managers,
mhm.
4, 2 and 2 is 4. 2 managers are 6, you're right. And then
But
three
I
would
don't
be
believe the
9.
managers should be members of the committee.
No.
They have to attend though.
Yeah, we provide the
Yeah.
staff support, you
Yeah.
know, for
Okay.
this, but the voting members of the committee would be even 2, 2, and then 3 at large in the community. They'd be 7
That gives
Yeah.
7,
Yeah.
should be an odd number.
Yes. I
typically.
agree.
So we 3, 3, and 3, or 2, 2, and 3. I mean, 3, 3, and 3 is fine. We'd have to come up with a different table because this only seats 8, but there's bigger problems with the world. But you know, things that we talked about to a liaison include, because this isn't, I mean, it is a public committee, so it's gonna be subject to FOIA and the Open Meetings Act. But there doesn't have to be a residency requirement either. So You know, the biggest pushback we got from people was. People who didn't live here that wanted to stay in the process, so potentially designating one of those. Is a priority to have a non-resident. You know, not a must, but if we get an applicant. You know, we would look at that before, you know, a resident. And the other two spots be for residents, you know, something like that, but.
So this agreement would be available for the liaison meeting? Is that where you would?
Well, I think I want to present to the liaison committee. The suggestions you have for these ideas
Got it, all right.
and send it to them so they have a chance to just talk internally. But I'd like to try and have liaison before they move in January,
Mhm.
so that the January board meetings will be productive and adopt whatever comes out of liaison.
So we move.
Especially if we're going for August.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, this is, we can't dilly dally.
Or is mayor deadline for ballot and all that? It's, I know you have it, but
yeah, I wanna say it's the end of. May 12th jumps out.
okay.
Yeah, it's something like that.
May 16th. That's the deadline.
Yeah, so we gotta get moving.
And that's just the deadline to get it on the ballot.
Right.
You can do more after that.
Actual ballot language, though, then.
Has to be, yeah. And I have communicated to the county clerk and the township clerk that this is something we're looking at. The township clerk has responded. County clerk has not. County clerk's office still has not sent certified results from the council election either. I believe she sent them individually to people, but we as the village proper have not received anything from the board of canvassers acknowledging the results of the election.
Is that because the proposal to recount? No, okay.
We got that for the two proposals that we had on the ballot. But they also need to send us the council results, which they have not done and we have asked for and not received a response. But it is what it is.
Yep.
Mhm.
So we're looking at a meeting sometime in,
Yep, meet in January.
well, I like these changes you've made. So all we have to do is. It's got our tentative approval.
And then structure your 333.
Well, I think maybe at least 3 community members, because. If they have jobs or if they, you know, they may not be able to make everything.
Yep.
But if it's available to them.
You know, and Brett brought up some really good points about, you know. We should probably stream these meetings and that kind of stuff, make it more known,
Yep.
Facebook, that kind of stuff. Be a great place if we had the e-notify system on our website, that we could do that, but we don't quite have that yet.
Yep.
So,
All right, picture a meeting with these individuals there. How will it work? I 2 and 2 might be a concern. I know it needs to be small, but I picture millage meetings in a community and they don't run with small committees. They'll have a dozen to 15 people because of the number of agents, number of people that need to be represented. I don't know that that's true here, but you don't get as much input.
I think what Brent was going for with that liaison was by publicizing it more, especially now that we've really come out to the community that this is what we're looking at. You know, there should be greater input this time around,
So you think people will come more frequently?
or at least offer their suggestions. and
Okay,
input.
good.
Well,
That's
because of the
important.
feedback, because of the feedback the LAPOA got, they thought the hangup wasn't the dredging. They thought the hangup was the.
Oh, correct, yeah.
So if that being the case, then really, they're behind it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
100%.
don't, right,
It wasn't always that way.
right.
So I think this is a little bit different atmosphere.
You
So
know,
I
we
think
had talked
Brent's right.
about at liaison was that. yes, in one sense, we only needed to flip 18 voters to make it pass by one vote. But that shouldn't be the perspective we take. We should be
Right.
looking to put together a more robust, solid proposal to get 65% of the community on board instead of 50+1.
That's, and I'm not talking negatively about this. I'm talking about how it's perceived, how the committee itself is perceived in the community. With 7 individuals and input. I know we want other input, but there were 25, 28 people at some of the meetings.
Yeah.
So it seems like 7 is small. There could be, 4 or 5 from the community. My experience in other places, now it's a bigger school districts, they're oftentimes bigger, but from all the things they said as we were sitting here, we didn't have enough discussion up front to talk to them the way they wanted. It seems like we need more input from people that on this committee to say, this is what people need to know. And I'm not anti, I'm just wondering if that's enough. That's all.
Part of what I was saying was trying to get more people in the crowd too.
Yes, I
Because
agree,
those meetings, have public comments,
right,
so I mean, some of those people that came to the meeting, they can still voice their 2 cents, whether or not they're a part of the committee and get to vote on stuff. They don't, but we'll still hear it,
right, and I think it's
And-
important that they do that.
and we want it to pass,
Right,
so.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was just in terms of what perception is of this committee, that's all.
Well, the thing that we have to do then, if we do it with a larger group of people or a smaller group of people or whatever. We have to speak with one voice.
Correct.
It's not that, this is our proposal. And we can't start. Even though unintentionally, start different streams of information from different points of view.
Mhm.
It's got to be done with one voice.
Yep, I agree.
And so. I think that if we have 3 community members, my feeling is. They can get the information, and go, no, this is the way it was. And when they hear the rumors out there, they talk to their neighbors and say, no, I was there, this is what we talked about. This is what's going to happen.
Okay.
No,
That's all I would say.
The other question I would propose is who appoints the members at large?
Right.
So do we want to present to the association a framework where, each organization puts our respective 3 people on the committee, and then that group of 6 picks 3 from the applicant pool from the community to serve as the community members?
Yeah,
I think that.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay,
I think that'd be a nice way to work it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter to me if it's 6 or 9.
No,
On the
yeah,
committee.
yes, I understand what you're saying. I'm just looking at it from the.
I'm just trying to, a part of our thing is we've got fractured voices out there. We didn't speak with one voice.
Mhm.
We didn't have one message that went out from everybody. If we keep it smaller and then let it go up from there, that'd be better. I think.
And do we want to say that those at-large seats have to be reappointed annually, biannually?
Well, how long would this committee go for?
Well, that's a great question. If we structure in a way that's gonna oversee the
whole
entire
project?
dredging project, you're talking multiple years here.
Correct.
So we could have 2 committees. The first one is to get out the ballot proposal and get it out there and to see whether or not we can pass it and then have the vote. Then we form another committee. After that, we form a committee that will take care of the responsibilities of the project. Does that sound?
So if people
Viable.
wanted to like re-up,
They could
go
re-up.
for the
But we
construction
have,
portion of it.
well, I'm just throwing it out there. If we had one committee and, okay, our job in this committee, let's not get too far in front of ourselves. Let's get the millage done. Then we disband that committee. We've got the money. Now we form another committee. How do we spend this? Or how should we go about?
Well, this agreement puts all that on this first committee.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah, the agreement that is written right here, they're doing it all.
So they're identifying, they're getting the permits, they're determining communication plan, disposal. Now, I have sent this also to our bond counsel, so he's gonna get back to me hopefully next week. Then I'm gonna present to the association.
Would it be more confusing having two committees? You know, because one committee's got this in mind and then you get that money and then the next committee comes up with a whole different idea and whole different structure.
Well, it's interesting too. Because that's a good point, but it's also can be that people get. We bird walk anyway, naturally, and so we're working on passing this millage. And 2 or 3 people are for one thing, and 2 or 3 people are for doing it a different way.
Sure.
And
You know.
then do we get into an issue after the millage comes?
Right.
Now we're gonna argue about how we're gonna do this?
Well, my suggestion would be to have just one committee and that committee follows through, whether you stay on it or get off and be replaced, but still the original objective, you know, stays in place.
You know, you could also, and that's a great point, you could also put in there that nothing prohibits the joint committee from having subcommittees or ad hoc work groups that could include people not on that 6, 9, 7 member committee, so they could pull in more people there as well. They'll be tasked with recommending stuff to them.
Having
That's
others
a better
involved.
idea.
Yes,
Have ad hoc
I agree,
committees.
because
With-
that's the issue.
Empower them with the ability to have an ad hoc committee.
Yes. Because you need to include options for people to join along the way and just be part of it from whatever fits.
That's a better idea. That's a
Yeah, I
really
think
good
so.
idea.
I agree.
So it is more than one committee. Just had to say that.
All right.
Yeah. And then the committee decides how they're going to be run, correct?
Yes,
And that's a key point, the committee making the
Yes.
decision,
Yes.
they don't feel like they're being led.
Nope.
So the committee exists, they will then report to the council and the board. And then we all, that committee and the council and board, then communicate with the community. Or no?
I think the committee is actually tasked in the agreement with being the one that comes up with a communication plan.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
you know, the way I've envisioned this is that group puts together the plan and then both boards follow the plan that they come up with. You know, that this is our communication strategy, this is our messaging, you know. And coming out of that committee, it allows us to have that unified voice, I
Yep.
think.
I like that. Because they're separate from the LIPOA and they're separate from us as a body. They're their own thing. Yeah, that's workable for me.
What's the community's perception of that committee? I'm just, again, asking questions. I'm not pro or con. Are they gonna see it? Because I picture again, all the questions and the things they said we should have done and didn't do and blah, blah, you know? So what's the perception going to be of that committee? Will it be positive? Will they see it as a group that can enforce? Will they see it as a group with integrity? I hope. I just want to be sure we're presenting a better plan this time. I think the committee is an excellent idea. I just want to make sure, is it going to be perceived okay?
I think it gives everybody a chance to buy in. The LIPOA gets to put their people on there, we get to select our people, and then we both get out of a pool, decide who's going to be on the other part, and then they have to, you know, it's part of the agreement of if you're gonna be on the committee, you're gonna work toward the same thing. This is the goal.
Got it. Okay.
We want the lake cleaned up and dredged, and we need the money to get there. So it's a many-year process, and we have to have it start. And
How the committee is gonna be perceived is gonna be up to the committee. And
Yeah.
And the work they do.
what we
get
can do
done.
for getting that information out to the public.
Yeah.
This is what the committee did.
see, because it wasn't a negative slap down, didn't get
No.
beat by 190 votes.
No, I agree.
And
Yes. I agree.
they brought up some good points.
Yeah.
And so, okay, those are all good points, and we're gonna give you more information. In fact, you get to be on it if you want to.
Yeah.
If you want to apply.
And that's gonna be key. We listened.
Yep.
Now we're giving it to you.
If someone has a good point, we can do it at a stage where we can fix it rather
Right.
than, you know.
Yep.
We talking late October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can-
Discover
it's
something.
part of the ballots wrote.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah,
We can't do anything about it.
right.
But like this year, you know, in March and April, before we send in the ballot language, you know, we can adjust some stuff.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah, you know, that really did hurt last year, how late of a jump we
Yeah.
got in getting the message
Yes,
out.
it
I mean, we ran up right to that ballot deadline before we really could get engaged with the community, because we didn't know if we were gonna have a project go forward. So,
It was a good learning
Yes, it
experience.
yeah, I mean, we can definitely get over the hump.
Mhm.
I mean,
Well, through I think, the community's gonna look at it like, and you know, in the past, you know, the two associations have knocked heads. And this here, it's a joint thing, you know, for everybody in the community, so hopefully they look at it that way.
And that joint committee will give that perception also. That's a good thing.
Well, it's, you know, it's
Yeah.
from both sides
Yeah.
and it's neutral.
you know, that part of the intent of that committee too was, you know, the recognition that at the end of the day, the council does have to be the one that approves the disbursement of funds and signs the checks, but having an equal say in that decision-making process to what comes here for approval is essential for our relationship with the association.
Yes.
You know,
And the community.
in the community, you know, and I don't envision the council being, you know, opposed to what they send in terms of the recommendation, especially if you've got 3 members on it. You know, but that was one of the things that we tried to structure to make sure that they had that equal place at the table, even though it's public funds being dispersed.
Right.
So,
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
Resolution 2221, employee handbook.
So this is the first of 3 items that the finance committee met at 6 o'clock tonight to review. The committee looked at new business 2, 3, and 4. They were supportive of the materials as presented in the packet. I will say that the finance committee was 2 of 3, with Charlie being in Florida, he could not participate. But he was contacted to share his thoughts, and he was in agreement with the action being presented and the direction that the finance committee was comfortable taking. So the first one is some minor adjustments to our employee handbook. Those include putting in place a normal Department of Public Works work period. Removal of election leave, since we don't conduct elections, we don't need that. Clarification on how we calculate overtime. Adjustments to the longevity pay, so it's a consistent 2-to-1 ratio. And that, as opposed to the village manager being able to approve additional schooling and a significant education proposal needs to come to the council for approval.
Any questions? Okay. So, Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept. What is it, resolution 2221?
21. Yep, motion made by Davis to accept resolution 2221. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Peavy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Robert Laraway,
Yes, yes.
Brad Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Al Davis,
Yes.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes. Resolution carries 5-0. Deputy Manager Education Agreement.
So this was a subject that came up in my review last month in closed session about having really an internal pipeline of talent available for this position based on the market factors of what you're seeing in current searches for small community village manager jobs. Deputy Manager Manley has been accepted to CMU. She, I believe, talked about that briefly at last month's meeting. And working with her and what she's gone through with CMU. This is a multi-year process for her to get her bachelor's degree. She has an associate's right now. keeping it a manageable workload of 6 to 9 credits a semester. We'll put her into probably 2025 to complete. So you're looking roughly at a total cost not to exceed about 35,000, which would be about $1,000 a month. Spread out over those 3 years. That will likely go down because one of the things that you can do at CMU is apply for prior learning credit. So once you get your plan for your classes, that these are the ones you need to complete for your degree, you can then try and match those up with professional experience you've had prior to getting your degree. To get some of those credits waived, you pay a reduced credit fee. So when I completed my master's degree at Central, master's program is 36 credits, which is divided by 12 classes, give or take, more than that. I got 3 of the classes waived, 9 credits. So I was able to get out just based on, the portfolio I put together. So, she has that resource available here, someone that's gone through it that can help her with that. She is obviously here if you'd like to ask her any additional questions. The finance committee was very supportive of this endeavor for her and for the village.
Yes. I would agree. Do you want to describe your degree?
It is a public and nonprofit administration degree. So it actually will encompass everything that the village does, as well as give me some insight on what the nonprofit, like the LIPOA, would be doing. Okay, so I believe it would be very beneficial.
Blends up nicely with your accounting degree too.
Yes.
It's not phys ed and track, is it?
There are a few classes that we're hoping to get waived that I see has no bearing on the degree in itself, so.
Yay.
Yeah. Not to speak of my college education too much, but I do have credits in principles of coaching football, principles of coaching basketball, and principles of coaching baseball and softball.
All righty.
And
If we ever have a
And
team,
American cinema.
right, if we ever have a team, you can.
That's right.
We'll be all set.
Well, at least the principals.
That's right.
I love it.
Okay, any further discussion?
We just have to approve it, right?
Right.
So we have to have a motion.
Yep, we need a motion to go ahead.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Davis,
Thank you. And Mr. Blair,
seconded by Laraway to extend the education agreements. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Al Davis,
Yes.
Robert Laraway.
Yeah.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 2222.
Golden resolution, 2222.
Yeah, there we go.
This resolution would make some minor adjustments to our compensation schedule and our job descriptions. To the comp schedule, bumping the zoning administrator and DPW laborer up from a max of 18 to 20. Seasonal DPW max from 14 to 15. Clarifying that if you're an hourly employee and you're getting like the crew leader supervisor addition, that's and above if you're already maxed out. And then adding into the deputy manager job description that a bachelor's degree is preferred. Which is, consistent with what you just approved in an educational agreement, that position is one that you would desire to have a bachelor's degree in for future applicants. It does still allow for an associate's degree, and it allows for comparative experience in light of a degree. But recognizing that, if you do have a degree, that's going to be valuable in the process as well.
Any questions? Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make it again.
Motion made by Davis to accept resolution 2222. Is there a second?
Also,
Seconded by Peavy. Discussion. Excuse me, seeing none, roll call please.
Carol Shannon, yes. Al Davis,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
Yes.
Brett Peavy,
Yes.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Okay, public, oh, wait a minute, resolution, the one we added,
Yes, sir.
22-23.
So as explained in my report, this would allow us to release that deed restriction on those 3 lots contingent upon 2 of them staying combined, the other one going to the other property.
And that's the handout we have.
Yep, so that's the letter requesting it, and the resolution should be stapled to the second page. I apologize for the lateness of this. They literally sent the letter at about 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much as we don't have to, it's, I think nice on our part to do it now instead of making it wait till January.
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't see any problem with it, but yeah.
This resolution only covers that,
Those
it
three
doesn't
lots.
cover the future.
Correct. So you've been presented with a request to release previous deed restrictions, and you've always handled it on a case by case basis.
Yes. Any questions? Go ahead.
No, I don't have a question. If there's no other questions, I'll make the motion that we approve resolution 22-23.
23. Motion made by Laraway to accept resolution 22-23. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Al Davis,
Yes.
Robert Laraway.
Yeah.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Dave Torgerson.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. All right. Second round of public comment.
You brought up some.
2 quick things, Isabella County Planning Commission is gonna be having some openings, Isabella County Planning Commission.
Oh, planning.
Is going to have some openings coming up. So, as of right now, it sounds like there's not much representation for the western side of the county. So it would be nice if we could get somebody from out in this area who might be interested in serving on that. So I don't know the whole procedure for how to do it. Apparently elected officials can't serve on it because I put my name forward and was told that, no, you're an elected official, and apparently that's not allowed on the planning commission. For any elected officials, I'm not sure the truth behind that, but I'll take them at their word right now. But if you know anybody who is interested in doing that, it would be nice to have some representation for this side of the county on the county planning commission. And then secondly, I know I've said this in the past, you guys have talked about it tonight. Having as much communication as we can with the general public that lives here. I keep going back to how do we get more information out to people? If you remember what we used to have, the shopper's guide, little mailboxes that used to be on and stuff like that, I would love to see us pursue doing something like that here for the village, so where we had a Lake Isabella guide, mailbox or something like that, that people can stuff newsletters into, informational stuff, something that pertains to from the association or from the village. Financing it might be a little bit harder to do, but I know right now the association sells ads on their newsletter, so it doesn't mean that they couldn't do the same kind of thing. I don't know if the village would be eligible to sell that kind of stuff, but I could see that as being one way to help finance it. But if we can get something that we could start having a monthly or quarterly newsletter, informational updates, sewer system, no, I'm sorry, not sewer system, dredging system, getting that kind of information out to people that we have, roughly 1,000 houses out here. To me, that would help also save on postage for not having to have, 1,000 different pieces of mail being mailed out at whatever that rate is too. Granted, you still have somebody who has to drive around and fill the boxes, but to me, I would assume that would be a little bit cheaper than all of the mail costs, but it's something I would really like the council to consider looking into, or maybe work with the association so that we can get as much communication out to the people who live here. I know we have Facebook, I know we have the website, I know we have emails, but to me, it's one more thing that you can put in people's hands. You get people that come and say, I never received my village newsletter, or I never received my LIPOA newsletter. Whether they did or not, I don't know, but to me, that's one more way of being able to stick information in front of somebody to do that. So I would like to see you guys take that up as an issue to talk about maybe at next month's meeting, so. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? So the next meeting is January 11th. 10th?
17th.
What am I thinking?
Planning Commission's 10th.
Planning Commission, okay. 17th.